The world was louder then. Wind tore through open plains without walls to slow it. Night fell hard and absolute, swallowing color and certainty. Fire was not comfort, it was survival, and survival was never guaranteed. Human beings lived in small groups bound by blood, hunger, and fear. Every sunrise was a question mark. Every illness felt like a curse. Every storm looked intentional. People searched for meaning the way drowning men searched for air. Most prayed openly, some screamed at the sky. A few watched quietly. Those watchers noticed patterns. They noticed how the moon pulled at the tides, how seasons repeated themselves, how certain plants healed while others killed, how dreams sometimes warned, sometimes lied, and sometimes revealed things no waking eye could see. These people were not stronger than others. They were not braver. They were simply more curious. And curiosity in the ancient world was dangerous. The first divide. Knowledge was power long before the word power existed. When one hunter learned how to read animal tracks better than others, he survived more often. When one woman learned which roots eased pain during childbirth, she was listened to. When one elder learned to predict floods by watching the stars, he became indispensable. But knowledge also created distance. Those who knew more began to feel different, isolated, responsible, afraid. Because sharing knowledge did not always bring gratitude, it sometimes brought death. A wrong prediction could mean starvation. A misunderstood ritual could spark fear. A healer whose patient died could be accused of witchcraft. So the Watchers made a choice. They would no longer share everything. The birth of secrecy. At first, secrecy was informal, a whispered conversation by firelight, a symbol scratched where only a few would look, a meeting held after others slept. But secrecy has gravity. Once it begins, it pulls people toward it. Those who sensed the hidden knowledge wanted in. Those who feared it wanted it destroyed. The Watchers realized something terrifying and profound. To survive, they had to organize. And so, without banners or names, the world's first secret society was born. The oath without words. There was no written oath. Writing did not yet exist. Instead, initiation was an experience. A candidate was taken away from the group, sometimes blindfolded, sometimes led into darkness alone. They were tested not for strength, but for restraint, not for obedience, but for understanding. Could they keep silent even when afraid? Could they observe without reacting? Could they accept not knowing everything? Those who failed returned unchanged, remembering little. Those who passed remembered everything. From that moment on, they were no longer just members of a tribe. They were keepers of something older than law. Symbols before language. The society communicated through symbols. A spiral carved into stone meant time. A broken line meant danger. A circle within a circle meant knowledge protected. These symbols were meaningless to outsiders, but to members they were maps, guides to memory, reminders of shared truth. Over generations, these symbols appeared in caves, on tools, near burial sites. Thousands of years later, archaeologists would find them and argue endlessly about their meaning. They would never know they were looking at fingerprints. Power they never claimed. The secret society did not rule openly. That was the genius of it. Members advised leaders quietly, warned communities subtly, redirected decisions without taking credit. When a settlement moved before a flood, no one knew why it had been suggested. When a war was avoided, no one remembered who had spoken caution. Power works best when it is invisible. The society understood this instinctively. Fear from the outside. Eventually, outsiders noticed patterns. Some people always seemed prepared. Some elders always spoke last and were always listened to. Some families passed down strange rituals that others did not understand. Rumors formed. They know things. They speak to spirits. They control fate. Fear grew like a sickness, and fear demands enemies. The first persecution. One winter, after a failed harvest and unexplained deaths, a frightened community needed someone to blame. Eyes turned toward the quiet ones. A healer was accused. A star watcher was threatened. A symbol was destroyed. That night, members of the society vanished. Not all of them, just enough to survive. This was the second great lesson. Secrecy must be adaptive, or it dies. Scattering into the world. The society fractured, not in purpose but in geography. Small groups carried fragments of the knowledge across continents. Some traveled with migrating tribes, others embedded themselves into rising civilizations. Over time, they took on new names, new myths, new masks. But the core remained the same. Knowledge must be protected. Power must be hidden. Truth must be earned. Echoes in later civilizations. Millennia passed. Cities rose. Writing was invented. Gods were given names. Laws were carved into stone. And still the pattern continued. Priesthoods that guarded sacred knowledge, mystery schools that taught only the initiated, orders that required silence, symbols, and oaths. The original society did not disappear. It evolved. When history tried to kill it. Empires hate what they cannot control. Time and again, secret knowledge was outlawed, libraries burned, orders dismantled, teachers executed. But secrecy is resilient. Destroy one group and another forms elsewhere. Kill a name and the idea survives. You cannot kill a whisper by silencing one mouth. The greatest illusion. The greatest success of the world's first secret society was not knowledge, it was invisibility. People came to believe secret societies were inventions of later ages, products of medieval paranoia or modern conspiracy. That belief itself became the final disguise. Are they still here? If you expect cloaks, ceremonies, and underground chambers, you will be disappointed. If they exist today, they look ordinary. Teachers, researchers, archivists, observers. People who watch patterns, people who ask uncomfortable questions, people who understand that information shapes reality. The real secret. The true secret was never what they knew, it was how they thought. Observe before acting, question before believing, protect knowledge from those who would misuse it. That mindset survived every empire. Why this story matters? Because the first secret society was not about domination, it was about survival. In a world ruled by fear, secrecy was wisdom. And every time you pause before sharing information, every time you protect knowledge until someone is ready, every time you value understanding over attention, you echo something ancient, something older than history. The end that isn't an end. The world's first secret society did not vanish. It dissolved into humanity itself. And perhaps that was always the plan.